My voice wavered as I read the message. Sharp, sudden, like a spark landing on dry straw. We need $18,500 by tonight for Sophia's gallery opening. You're the only one who can make this happen, Aaron. I stared at the screen for a long time, as if the words might rearrange themselves into something else, something kinder, something I could understand. But they didn't change. They stayed exactly as cold and direct as they appeared. A demand, not a request, not a moment of shared worry or care. Just expectation. Mia lay beside me in the pediatric ward at St. Luke's Hospital in Denver, wrapped in a blanket that swallowed her small frame. 8 years old, fighting through another round of chemo. Her breath soft, her eyelids heavy. The room smelled faintly of disinfectant and lemon wipes. The steady beeping of machines formed a rhythm I had grown used to, the rhythm of waiting, of hoping, of trying to stay strong for a child who shouldn't have to be strong. I ran my fingers gently through her hair, thinner now, delicate like threads ready to pull away. She didn't wake. Her little hand rested in mine, warm but limp. And yet not one of them, not my mother, not my father, not my sister, had asked how she was doing. Not once. For years, I had been the dependable one, the one who never asked for anything, the fixer, the quiet backbone holding everyone up. But that message shattered something in me. They weren't family. They were scavengers circling what they believed I owed them. And I was done. My name is Aaron. I'm 40 years old, a single dad, a senior data analyst at a small firm downtown. Nothing glamorous, nothing flashy, but steady, reliable, enough to keep the lights on, the rent paid, the medical bills slowly chipped away at with careful budgeting and sleepless nights staring at numbers. My entire universe is Mia, her curious love of the ocean, seashells, and every creature that swims or drifts. Even though we live in a landlocked state, she asks me every week when we'll drive to the coast. She keeps a small glass jar on her bedside table filled with little treasures from craft stores and museum gift shops. Polished stones, imitation sand dollars, painted shells. To her, they're pieces of a world she hasn't been able to reach yet. I always say, one day soon. I was raised in Boulder, in a small old house with shaky porch steps and a faded white fence with peeling paint. The kind of house that looks charming in photographs, but always left splinters in your hands. My parents, Karen and Robert, spent their days doting on my younger sister, Sophia, the gifted painter, the brilliant one. Every conversation in the house revolved around her talent, her next show, her potential, her genius. And me? I was the helper, the reliable one, the one who cleaned paintbrushes, cooked dinner when Mom was busy taking Sophia to lessons, mowed the lawn, fixed the sink, drove Dad home when he drank too much. Every family picture tells the story. Sophia in the center, glowing with admiration. Mom crying happy tears. Dad beaming. And me, somewhere off to the side, holding something heavy, sometimes literally. By age 15, I was bussing tables in a diner. Not because we needed money. We didn't. But because Mom said, "Aaron, you're sensible. You'll handle it. Sophia needs space to explore her art." So I worked, and worked, through high school, through college. Nights, weekends. I studied when I could, slept when I had to. I scraped my way into a stable career, not because I was celebrated, but because I learned early that no one was going to catch me if I fell. I built a quiet, careful life for Mia and me in a small 2-bedroom apartment in Aurora. The carpet is worn. The kitchen is outdated. But the living room windows get warm morning sunlight, and that's where Mia sits on the floor, coloring pictures of dolphins and coral reefs with crayons that have been worn down to stubs. We don't have much, but we have peace. Or we did, until 4 weeks ago. 4 weeks ago, Mia collapsed at school. I still remember the phone call from the principal, her voice trembling ever so slightly. I remember running through hallways, my heart pounding, my vision narrowing. I remember seeing Mia lying on the nurse's cot, her face pale, her body limp. I remember scooping her into my arms, carrying her to the car, and the drive, the red lights, the cars, the blur of buildings, everything vibrating with fear. At the hospital, The doctor's expression said everything before words did. Compassion mixed with clinical necessity. The leukemia is active again, he said. We need to begin treatment immediately. The room went hollow. A ringing filled my ears. Not surprise, because some part of me had feared this, but grief that clung like smoke in my lungs. Mia looked so small in that bed. I called my family. Mom said, "Oh, Aaron, it's a tough day. I have yoga tonight. She'll be okay, right?" Dad didn't answer. Sophia's phone went to voicemail. So it was me. Just me. It always had been. The first night in the hospital, Mia's small hand curled around my thumb. She didn't speak. She didn't cry. She just held on. Machines beeped around us in steady intervals. Nurses came and went. The building hummed under fluorescent lights. "Is Grandma coming?" she whispered once, voice barely audible. I told her yes. I lied. They didn't show. Not that day. Not the next. Not once. Mom eventually sent a text. "Glad she's okay." Dad sent a thumbs-up emoji. Sophia said nothing. 10 days of silence. 10 days of fear and exhaustion and sitting in plastic chairs that made my back ache. 10 days of watching my daughter fight while my family existed somewhere else entirely, in a world where inconvenience was considered suffering. And then, 10 days later, they asked for money. The calls came nonstop. Dad said, "Aaron, this is Sophia's big break. Don't ruin it." Mom said, "Family supports family. Do your part." Sophia said, "Just send it. You're the responsible one." I was folding Mia's blanket when I replied, "I can't. Mia's treatment comes first." Dad called immediately. "Don't be dramatic. You're being selfish." I felt something inside me crack open like a fault line splitting. "Selfish?" I said. "I sat alone in a hospital while your granddaughter fought for her life." He exhaled sharply. "I'm tired of your guilt trips." He hung up. I stared at the phone in my hand. For a moment, I didn't feel hurt. I felt clarity. Sophia finally texted. "Didn't think you'd turn into this person." Turn into what? Someone who protected their child? Someone who finally said no? Something inside me hardened. I checked our shared family emergency account, an account I alone had been funding for 13 years. Birthdays, holidays, quiet Saturdays where I transferred a bit more just in case someone needs something. It should have held around $14,000. Balance, $2,100. The withdrawals were listed clearly. New canvases, travel, a designer outfit, photography sessions. The most recent withdrawal? Lighting equipment for the gallery. I called the bank. "Freeze the account," I said. My hand didn't shake. Then I moved what remained into a trust for Mia, legally secure. Untouchable. Sophia messaged. "So? Where's the money?" I replied. "You already took it. That's all you get." The phone erupted. "You're ungrateful. You betrayed us. You want to see us fail." I put the phone face down and let the messages stack like junk mail. They insisted on meeting in person. So I drove to Boulder. I brought printouts, dates, statements. Every dollar I covered over the past 13 years. $156,000. Gone. Used. Expected. Sophia sat with her fiancé, Evan, who looked confused and slowly more horrified as the numbers became undeniable. "You took from the emergency fund while Mia was in chemo," I said quietly. Sophia opened her mouth, but no words came out. Mom tried to speak instead. "This is about loyalty." Evan interrupted, his voice shaking. "You didn't tell me your niece is in the hospital?" Sophia stared at the floor. "You used his money," Evan said. "And you didn't even tell me the child is sick?" He stood. "I can't do this." He left. I walked out too. I drove home with the windows cracked. The night air cold and clean. For the first time in my life, I felt free. 3 months passed. Mia got stronger. Slowly, carefully. Her laughter returned in quiet pockets of afternoon sunlight. My parents didn't call. Sophia didn't text. And that silence? It felt like oxygen. Love isn't about blood. Love is about presence. And I will show up for my daughter. Always. 3 days later, I was back in the hospital with Mia, sitting in the same stiff chair, the same soft beeping around us. The walls were the same pale shade of cream, meant to be calming, but instead felt like the color of tired bones. Mia slept, her breathing thin and uneven. Her cheeks had hollowed out slightly. Steroids had made her face puffy, but now that the dosage was shifting, her features looked fragile again, like the outline of a child drawn in faint pencil. I stared at her small fingers, curved loosely against the blanket. I had memorized every crease, every freckle, every scar from playground falls. I had held her the night she was born. Just us. No one else. Her mother had left before Mia turned one. That was its own story, a quiet vacancy rather than a violent departure. She simply slipped out of our lives, a person who was never built to stay. People always asked how I managed being a single dad. I never had an answer. You don't manage love. You just hold it. You hold it no matter what. A nurse passed by the doorway and gave me a soft glance, the kind that was half compassion, half exhaustion. They all knew us now. Room 214 felt like a second home, the kind you never wanted but couldn't leave. My phone buzzed in my pocket. For a moment, my chest tightened, some stubborn instinct hoping it was family asking how she was. But it was just another billing notice. I turned the screen face down. The hallway outside was quiet. Evening hospital quiet, the kind where the world outside keeps spinning, but in here time holds still. I rested my forehead against Mia's hand. "I'm here," I whispered. Not loud, just enough for us. A week later, the hospital released us for a short break before the next treatment phase. They called it a recovery window, though recovery was a generous word. Mia was tired, her steps small, her breath slow, but she wanted to go home. She sat on the floor with her seashell jar, sorting pieces gently, methodically. He sat beside her. "Dad, why don't Grandma and Grandpa call anymore?" Her voice was soft. I swallowed hard, because sometimes people love the idea of family more than the work of being family. She looked up at me, eyes too grown. "Did we do something wrong?" "No," he whispered. "We didn't do anything wrong." She leaned her head against me, and I held her. 2 weeks passed. Treatment resumed. Some days she laughed. Some days she couldn't lift her head. One night, she cried into my chest. "It hurts. I know. It's scary. I know. I'm here." We existed inside that ache together. One afternoon, while she slept with an 4-line in her arm, I stepped into the hallway. The pediatric wing walls were covered with paintings made by children. Some of the names had dates after them. Some didn't. I stared at a painting of waves, thick and uneven, and at the bottom a child had written, "No matter how deep the ocean is, I keep swimming." I sat down on the floor and covered my face. A nurse sat beside me without a word. After a while, I stood, wiped my eyes, and went back to Mia, because I always will. The next sunset we watched together through the hospital window, Mia whispered, "Dad, are we really going to the ocean?" "Yes, when we're both strong enough." She nodded, trusting me in a way that made my chest ache. She closed her eyes, and in that quiet hospital room, I understood something. It has always been just us, and that is enough. One day soon, I will walk with her to the water's edge, and I will hold her hand, the whole way there. You just heard a story of betrayal, survival, and quiet revenge. If it left you thinking, hit like, share it forward, and subscribe for more true emotional stories that'll stay with you long after they end. Every click helps another story find its voice.